everybody, it's Romania Black, and yeah, I got off work and was like, I know exactly what I'm watching today. And it's Natsume Yujin-cho. Oh my gosh. So we've met Taki, our sweet, sweet Taki. I'm so glad we finally met her. I told the moderators, which is really funny because I'm watching ahead, and the moderator, Floor, was talking about, like, I just watched an episode where you referenced something, but you told me that like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I know, right? Watching ahead is a crazy experience. So, but I will say, they did find out today that I've met Taki, and I was like, yes, so excited. I'm so glad to finally meet them because that was only episodes 6 and 7 of the season, and I'm like, we technically have, this is episode 21. So we have 21, 22, which is 8 and 9, and then 23 is 10, 24 is 11, and then 25 and 26 we're going to watch together, and that's going to be 12 and 13. So there's 13 episodes. I'm not used to these seasons having 13 episodes, so it throws me off a little bit with my numbers, but it's the rule of 8 today. Like we did last season, anytime you have an 11 to 13 episode season or series, the 8th episode is always a good one because it's transitioning you into the final arc of the season. Although, for Natsume, it's kind of different because each episode's, they're pretty much episodic, so they're not really, there is a thread, but it's not like a thread that is building necessarily towards something. Like a lot of narratives, you build. It's like a roller coaster, you build, and then you go boop, climax, boop, resolution, right? But Natsume Yujin-cho is a little bit different. Instead of a roller coaster, it's kind of like you're going down a really exciting lazy river at a water park. It's not like building necessarily, but you're just going through, you're just going down the river, and maybe there's a waterfall here, or there's like something over here you can swim up next to, or there's like some exciting bubbles or something. Like there's stuff on the path that is unique and interesting for that specific part of the path, but it's not like a roller coaster where you're like, oh, I gotta build, and then we have a climax and a resolution. So the rule of 8 may not necessarily apply all the time to this series, but still, 8's my lucky number. I'm pretty excited about this. But yeah, so I really am glad we got to meet Taki. Watching 2 episodes last week was a lot of fun, but I'm super excited to see now that we have Taki included in the group, it seems like Natsume is forming a really cohesive friend group. We have so many seasons to go. I'm sure that won't get expanded on and challenged and all this other stuff, right? But in any case, I'm super excited to see where episode 21 takes us, technically episode 8 of season 2, and to go from there. So I was also told by my moderator Floor that the manga is going to span volumes 3 through 6, which is so insane to me because the whole first season was just 2 volumes of manga, and now this season is 4 volumes over the same amount of episodes. I'm like, that feels like they're leaving stuff out, but that's going to be exciting. So I don't want to know about the manga yet. My plan is around the time that when I get done filming season 2's reaction, which will be 25 and 26, I'm recording a little bit ahead for this reason. I'll have some time to go and read the manga volumes 3 through 6. Now, granted, my time is kind of spread pretty thin on my channel, so I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to get to season 3 having read all of those volumes. It may take me a couple episodes into season 3 to update you on as I go, but that'll be fun. That maybe I can talk about volume 3 for the first episode of series 3 or whatever. The moderators have me a list of all the Natsume content to watch, so if there are OVAs or movies or anything like that, they'll be in that list. So I think after season 2 is over, I will start to read the manga for season 2. And then as we get started with season 3 or whatever comes after season 2, I will slowly give you guys like little updates about it and my thoughts on it as we start that season or OVAs or whatever. So that way you guys can kind of get my thoughts about the manga, and then we can go into the next season and have those as well. So that's kind of the goal. I'll let y'all know after I get done with season 2 where I'm at with the manga, and I'll keep y'all updated. But I am excited to read the manga because I really like the style of it. I think it's neat. I like that it's a little bit different than the anime in terms of its style, which it's nice to have not, the thing I like least is recaps with anime because it's just the same thing over again. And if the manga adapts everything perfectly from you know, the anime adapts perfectly from the manga. That's good in some ways. I like that. But if I'm a reactor, then I don't want to react to the manga, because if it's the exact same thing, what's the point? I just went through it with you all. Why do we need to go through it again? So I am glad the manga is a little bit different. And so now I'm very, very intrigued, to say the least. But I've talked enough. We need to dive into this episode and see what we get. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna get my headphones in, and we are gonna start episode 21 of Natsume Yujin-cho, and we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay, I talked on Discord about this. I am kind of amazed that, and I know why they did this, but when I go to open up this series, it automatically opens up to the English dub for whatever reason, probably because it's newer. And the English dub for this season is in 1080p, like beautiful quality. I'm like, oh, and this isn't bad by any means. It's still really, you can tell the good animation when it's there, but it's just like a night and day difference. And I was like, wait, what? And then I went back to the Japanese sub, and it goes back down to 480, and I'm like, so we were talking about it in the Discord, and a lot of people speculated, and I agree with this, that it's because when they did the dub, they updated the graphics to match for the dub since it's new. And I'm like, okay, they just didn't take the time to update the subs. And I'm like, fine. It seems a little prejudiced, but fine. So it's okay. I know Anthony offered, they're like, well, do you want the files? I'm like, no. This is fine. The quality is good. But for the thumbnails now, and for any of the thumbnails and screenshots that I'll share in the Discord, I'm gonna go to the English dub because the quality's better. I was like, I've been using 480p screenshots for the thumbnails for a season and a half, and now I find this out? I'm sure at some point the quality will get updated to match for the Japanese sub and the English dub. But it was just so funny to me. I was like, oh, how dare. All right. Oh, spring. Springtime of youth. Toko is treating him. Why'd she buy all that junk food, though? Oh, because it has become a major theme in anime, as I've noticed, that sugar increases your brain power. No wonder I've been doing so well in school. I have such a sweet tooth. By anime logic, I'm a freaking genius. No. I loved his little blush there at Toko, though. It was really cute. Oh, if you insist. Of course, yeah, and then he just goes to town. Oh, that looks like somebody carrying like a basket. My little dog is at my feet. I do also like the consistency of their outfits, if you notice. They all, like, wear the same clothes, and it's consistent. It's nice. It's a nice little continuity. Oh, bro, I brought all the snacks. We haven't seen Takuma in a while. I miss him. I miss seeing him. Maybe he's on a quest. Or he is in different classes, so maybe that's why. We've been focusing a lot on Natsume's class. Are you boys going to get into a struggle and fall into the lake together? Oh no, oh no! I was joking! I was joking! Oh my god. And of course he's like, never mind. Oh, he was fine, you big faker! Squeeze those two together, sir! Keep pushing this yaoi agenda. I feel bad for Natsume that he's always kind of embarrassed when he realizes that they can't see what he sees. Is it haunted? Is this the zombie apocalypse? This feels like the start of a zombie apocalypse. This is a horror movie. I know, Ruby. Did the yokai eat all the people? Mermaid legend! Mermaids! Yes, please! I love mermaids. Oh! Damn it! Oh my god. It's the family cat! A stowaway. I bet he's ate all the sweets. Oh, good. I'm glad everyone here is still alive as far as we know. Aww. No pets. And then she kicks Madara out. Oh. Does she know Reiko? Were they besties? Chizu Sakanaka? Chizu, were you and Reiko besties? I just love the idea of how extra it is to go to a retreat to study. In our hillbilly town, we just went to each other's houses. They go to a damn sauna. Huh? I know, right? You get to eat rice and fish and go to a hot tub while you're studying for your test? Oh, that's cute. With Madara and the mackerel. Aww. Pillow fights. Aww. I like Natsume just getting to do, like, kid stuff. What do you mean, what's so exciting about that? Are said to be yokai in disguise. What? Oh, but Madara, really? Ha! Uh-huh. In the manga it is. It is kind of creepy that they follow him. Well, maybe. You reach for that fanny pack. Aww. Notice Natsume is not in between them. I'm just gonna find any excuse. Oh my god, to make them into lovers. Oh my god. Shit. I wonder if the old lady knows the yokai. Oh shit. Crap! Oh no. Oh good. Oh, she is a mermaid. Oh my god! Madara! A tanuki! They keep calling him a raccoon! Well, you were trying to strangle him. Oh, pretty. Shit. Or I could give you your name back. Ooh. Oh. Ah. I want her to spill the tea. What does she know? She knows something. Oh, yes. Oh. Let's hear about this. Come on. Oh, okay. Madara's gonna be like, that's a hoax. Ooh. Oh, shit. What? Really? Oh, so it's not Reiko. Okay. I'm fascinated now. I thought maybe she knew Reiko. Thanks for visiting here to study for your math final. You didn't do anything but eat. So extra. They want to go a long way back so they can hold hands. Oh. We gotta go across this death bridge. They ain't gonna turn down that offer. No. Oh! Sorry to punch you, but... She's really pretty. Oh. But then why do you want the book? Oh. Aw. Aw. Wouldn't you like to know? Oh. And just like that. So what now? Is she gonna follow him though? Ah. Oh my god, Madara, come on now. There you go. Madara's always testing him. Testing him. It's becoming more and more obvious. He's testing his answers. Oh. Interesting. Huh. Keiichi. Oh. 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 I want to see this flashback. Yeah. Aw. Aw. What if he, like, what if Keiichi married Reiko and is his grandfather? Oh. But it's probably not even related. It's just interesting that she recognized Natsume and thought he might have been him. Oh. But she gave it to her. Oh. Oh, wow. Interesting. Huh. But he didn't come back. Huh. Aw. Oh my gosh. Woman. Oh. Oh my gosh. This took a turn for very sad very quick. Oh shit. Welcome to Doctor Who. Ah, yeah. That's a very good point. Like with Reiko, yeah, wow. And Someday with You. Oh. Wow. Well, this suddenly got melancholic. I'm not helping. Well, never mind. Now I'll help you. We're just catching her. You don't get to be immortal. Oh. Oh. Ooh. Oh, shit! Well, we'll just go right in! Oh. 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 Oh, shit. Oh! Oh, no! Oh. And Madara just staring. Oh. Oh. That's why she gave it to her. And then she didn't come back. Oh. Oh my god. Oh. Well, shit! Well, yes, she took off Madara. You just saw her do that. Oh. That was the most take charge we've seen him be for a while. Oh. 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 Are you sure it's him, though? Are you sure it's him? What if she gave you, what if what she gave you wasn't her actual blood? What? Oh, come on now. Oh. Oh my god! Oh. Oh. How did Reiko get to her? Ah. Ah. Madara's like, no! Sasafune. Oh my gosh. The funny thing is he could have controlled her and made her go away, but he didn't do that. Oh. Oh. And that's when she asks, oh. Oh, it wasn't that at all. Oh. 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 Damn, this woman's got some stamina. Oh. I hate that giving back their names is almost like a death sentence. So they can finally just pass on. Damn. Oh. It was his grandson. I was about to say. Oh. Oh. I was about to say I don't want her to die or to give up on life. Oh, don't cry, old lady. Oh, Chizu, look at Madara. He's the only thing keeping me from crying because he looks so stupid. Oh. Uh-huh. Ha! Oh. Why are you gonna make me cry, show? This was just an episode about an old lady and a mermaid. Why? Why are these animal episodes getting me? First it's a damn firefly, and then it was a bird, and now it's a damn mermaid. Ugh. Stop using creatures to make us mourn. Quit feeding off our tears. No. Damn it, show. I know. My dog's like, why are you crying? Bitch, are you for real? Oh. This episode was so sad. So beautiful, but so sad. Ah. Like, what do you want from me? Ah. Oh my god. Oh. Damn, what a good episode. Ah. 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 Well. Oh my gosh. It is not fair for this show to do that. Oh my god. Oh. you just walk into a Natsume episode and you're like, it's just gonna be an episode. It's just gonna be, they're just gonna go on a study trip. It's fine, no big deal. I'm not gonna get misty-eyed over it. And then by the end of the episode, you're like, stop it, Natsume, you're gonna make me cry. And then you're sitting there wiping your eyes in the ED, being like, okay. But that's what happens, right? It's probably good in hindsight that these are episodic stories and it's not just like a big through line, because otherwise it's like, I don't know if my tear ducts could handle it. So this was a really, really cute episode. I liked it a lot. And I always like how you think, you're like, well, how are they going to wrap things up and like go back and talk about it? And then by the end of the episode, they do. They make sure everything all threads back together, right? So I will be curious, speaking of the manga, I will be curious if a lot of these one-shot stories have extra content and we just have to read the manga to find out about it. I'll definitely tell you all. Don't feel the need to tell me in the comments yet, because I'm going to go through the manga and let y'all know what I find out. But this episode did definitely have that feel. Like, I felt like there could have been a little bit more to the story, and maybe they just didn't have time to fit it all in, and the manga is going to expand on it a bit. We'll just have to wait and see. But this was a super, super cute episode. I love that Toko, I feel like since the last couple of episodes where Toko is noticing that Natsume is like, she thinks he's like going through puberty and like he has friends, and he's like, she's trying to give him the ultimate high school safe experience. Be like, I know you're going through some changes. Here's lots of snacks. Your friends can come over. Everything's fine. Like, it's so cute. And she's just like, I bought all this junk food just for you. Like, there's Pocky sticks, there's like gummy straws, there's tea, there's some strawberry things. It looks, something has like a Pikachu frog on it. Like, it's all this big, massive thing. And I was trying to talk about in the reaction, I have noticed over the course of several anime that I've watched that I know that sugar triggers a part of your brain that helps you to focus. And that's interesting. I have a huge sweet tooth and I've ate a lot of candy in my day, so maybe that's why I did fine in studying during school. But yeah, so in a lot of anime, it's just like you see people like stocking up on junk food or eating cakes and sweets, and that's just what they do. So I think that it's funny. I've watched several shows in the last like year or so that have been done that same thing. So that's really, really funny to me. But yeah, I love it. It's great. And so I just love the fact that she knows they're going on a retreat and she wants to help him stock up. And she's like, take it to your study retreat, okay? And the fact that, okay, so it's not Pikachu. It just looks like a little like cat ninja or something on there. I just love that Natsume kind of blushes and he's just like, oh, well, that's really nice of you, Toko. Again, Natsume has a pretty good home life right now. His foster family, the Fujiwaras, are super nice. They're taking care of him. They trust him. I think that he's not, and this is the first time he's kind of had that place to call home that's like that, which is really super cute. And then it shows him getting ready. I love that. I thought for a second that Madara was sleeping on a sake cup, but it's just his little paw there. And Madara is such a tsundere. He's so easy to convince. He's like, I'm not helping you. And then Natsume's like, I'll give you some food. And he's like, I'm helping you. It's like, come on now. But I want to talk about a couple of things in here about them going on this study retreat. One, I think it's fascinating that we haven't seen Takuma in a while, or Tanuma, forgetting his name because we haven't seen him in so long. We haven't seen Tanuma in a while, and I do miss him. I think him and Natsume have a really good relationship, but we didn't meet Taki, so that's kind of an explanation of not having him there the last couple episodes. But it also makes sense because they're in different classes, and here Natsume is hanging out with his two bro friends from the one class. I'm always amazed by how Japanese high school students, they just go to a spa for the weekend just to study, just a study retreat, just going to a treat, studying for an exam, no big deal, going to a sauna. It's like, wait, what? And I think that's just because I am from the Midwest in the US, where those accommodations and those luxuries are nowhere in sight. Like, it'd be like us paying for a hotel room and then going to a hotel to study. But it's one of those things, I guess the culture here where I'm from is, why would you pay $100 to spend the night in a hotel just to study when you could do it for free at your friend's house? You know, that's kind of like in high school, I always had study groups, but we just go to our friend's house, and then, you know, their parents would like make you some snacks and say, here you go, have fun studying. And you just stay up all night studying or watching a movie while you're doing it or whatever. But here they go to a damn retreat. It's like, but maybe it's just really accessible, and that's just a cultural thing they do. I find it fascinating. I'd be all over that in high school. I'd be like, yes, let's go get in this hot tub and have some steamed rice and grind out these notes for science, for calculus or biology or whatever. Would definitely do that. But like I said in the reaction, I really like the consistency of everybody's outfits and style. And also I've noticed like the expressions for, because the two side friends, like they're side characters. I would call them, in terms of narration, they are flat characters. You have round characters and you have flat characters. Your more rounded characters are like Natsume, Tanama. I would say the yokai, like Madara's a rounded character. Hinoue is rounded. The characters that you get more about their personality and their backstories and stuff, those are rounded characters. They're more three-dimensional, like a sphere, right? Whereas the flat character's like a 2D, like a square on a piece of paper. And I would classify the two bro friends, Nishimura and the other one, as flat characters, because we don't know a lot about them. We have like a generic archetype of their personalities, but we don't know a lot about them. So it would be easy for the animation team to kind of not be consistent with them, but they really are. Like the one friend, Nishimura, has like the big wide eyes. He's always like kind of goofy, and he's sort of the goofier of the two, whereas the other one's kind of like, hey, Natsume, and like the more serious and grounded one. And the animation does a really good job of distinguishing them and keeping them very consistent throughout the show so far. So good for them. But yeah, I just like Natsume. He brings all the snacks. Of course, he's going to be popular with the guys, bringing all the goods. The idea of them going across this giant plank bridge to get to the retreat. Obviously, I thought Nishimura was going to fall in. I thought Nishimura was going to fall into the lake and they were going to fish him out. Luckily, that didn't happen. He saved himself quite easily, I might say. But I do feel a little bit bad for Natsume, because while Taki and Tanama and Sasada, I think, are totally fine with him seeing yokai and they understand what's going on, somehow the two other friends haven't quite figured out that he can see yokai and are still questioning, like, what do you see, bro? And I feel Natsume is embarrassed by it. When he figures out that he's seeing a yokai and not something else, he's just like, And the problem is that he doesn't quite know that they're yokai until he's already brought it up. And by that point, then he just looks weird for pointing out something that's not there. And the friends are like, are you okay? And he's just like, yep. And so I do feel bad for him. You can tell that it bothers him that his friends aren't seeing what he's seeing. And that would bother me too. But yeah, Nishimura, what a big tease. Thinking you're going to fall in and he saves himself. It was a little creepy. Again, this show, for all the heartfelt, heartwarming, humorous triple H's that it brings to the table, it also finds a way to put in that fourth H, which is horror, into its format quite easily. And when they opened up the door and there was nobody there, I'm like, is this going to become like a monster movie? What's about to happen? But no, Chizu was just at the train station looking for, her childhood friend, which I like that they tied back to overall. And also the idea that we get mermaids in here, I was very much reminded of for Janyu Yaoi back on the channel. If you go back to my Janyu Yaoi playlist, I've watched Mermaid. There's a mermaid in my tub. The design of Sasafune reminded me of that character. And then also there's a main character in the latest Mermaid BL that I watched for Janyu Yaoi. The main character kind of has the same blonde hair that Sasafune has for that one too. So I like mermaids. My favorite mythical creature is a dragon, obviously, but mermaids are like in my top 3. I'd say it's phoenixes, dragons, and it's dragons, then probably mermaids, and then phoenixes are probably my top 3 favorite mythical creatures. But yeah, I like the idea that we get to explore some yokai that are kind of more like they're with a motif that's more globally known. Like everybody knows about mermaids, and the idea that their scales or their flesh and blood is akin to immortality. I've seen folklore that, you know, here in the US, it kind of talks about the same thing too. So that's neat. And Madara in this entire episode is kind of creepy. I know in the manga it's so funny because now that I've read volumes 1 and 2 of the manga, he's very creepy in there. And the little Lucky Cat doll, the eyes, it's the eyes. Every time they zoom in on Madara, like when it's zoomed out, it's like in a group shot, Madara looks kind of absurdly cute because he's just kind of like derpy. But then when you like do the close up and he's like looking at Natsume or like looking and not saying anything, there is a creep factor to it. And it's the mangaka intends for it to be kind of creepy. And you're like, ooh. And so, of course, he sneaks aboard. I was waiting for them to do the gag where he's ate all of the food that they brought. But luckily, as we see later, Madara did not eat all of the food. And I like that the friends, they just have accepted that Natsume's cat's weird and follows them wherever they go and is just really fat and a troublemaker. Hilarious. So yeah. And then, of course, the woman... Now, the one thing that's not really explained in this episode is that Natsume reminds her of someone. That's never explained. And I'm wondering if the manga... So I don't want to know exactly why, but I'm hoping the manga tells me, because it's like Natsume does not look anything like the grandson or the grandfather that she grew up with. And the manga, you know, or the anime rather, doesn't at all talk about Chizu knowing Reiko, although the timelines would add up that they'd know each other. So I'm wondering if the manga has more about Reiko and Chizu knowing each other, and the anime just didn't feel the need to adapt it because they're like, oh, it's just some extra info. It's not really important to the episode's contents and what needs to be told. So I'm going to be curious when I get to the manga of seeing if Natsume, if she ends up telling him that he reminds her of a woman that she used to know, because Reiko was there somehow getting the mermaid's name. So I'm wondering if the manga expands on that and the anime just didn't see the need to do so. Maybe, maybe not. That was the only part of the episode that I kept waiting for them to tie back to as to why she kind of looked at Natsume funny, but we never find that out, and it's never really expanded upon. So Chizu Sakanaka, we get her in there. They're starting to study. It looks like, what are they studying for? It looks like they're doing math equations and word problems, which fair enough. Meanwhile, Madara's eating all of their food that they have. And then they end up going and exploring the sauna. They get like this nice rice and fish dinner, which looks really good. They have a damn pillow fight, which is really cute. And I liked that because it was this little moment, and it's Natsume getting to be a teenage boy and having fun with friends, which is something we've not seen Natsume be able to do most of the time in this series. So that part was really, really cute. I liked that. I liked the fact that Natsume, where he's at right now, gets to have this experience of growing up. It's really sweet. I'm going to be curious as we go through the show, because this show is 6 seasons so far, going into 7 with the season coming out later. I'm going to be curious to see how the timeline of the show goes. Like, because right now he's in high school. I think he's a first or second year in high school. It's going to be interesting to see if the show kind of grows up with him and we get to see him into adulthood. That would be interesting. Like, what's he going to do after high school? I don't think enough shows do that. I know that a lot of shows, their audience are high school students, so that's why they focus on staying in high school. But I like it when shows kind of follow the characters outside of high school and then show how they grow up. I think of, speaking of BL, I think of Classmates as a great example of that. Even Haikyuu does things like that. There are other anime that I've watched that kind of follow their characters out of high school and into adulthood. And even Free, Iwatobi Swim Club, that's a great example of that, where you get to see these characters grow up alongside you, and it's really cool. And so I'm wondering if Natsume will do that or not, but we'll just have to see about that. So yeah, and then Natsume's having fun, and he noticed that there's a carp in the lake, and then the carp blinks, and Natsume's like, oh, that's creepy, fish aren't supposed to blink. And Madara's like, well, that's probably a yokai in disguise. And I like that Madara gets scared, like, you're a yokai, why are you scared? And but yeah, so they think that the that the yokai is after the Book of Friends, which again is not really expanded upon in this episode why the yokai wants the Book of Friends name back. But so I'm thinking that maybe the manga is going to expand on that, and they just didn't think that it was needed for time's sake in this. But yeah, I'm glad that the friends did not wake up after Natsume gets taken by the mermaid outside. Nishimura like sits up for a second and then he falls back down asleep, which is really funny. But yeah, so this mermaid that can get out of the water, I like that Madara kind of bites her tail, gets her to like leave him alone. And this mermaid, she's very wishy-washy in terms of her personality. She seems really calm 1 second and then she freaks out. But yeah, she wants the Book of Friends back, and then as soon as Chizu comes out the door, she disappears. So, I feel like Chizu knew that it was a mermaid, like that it was a yokai, and she could kind of see yokai in that sense. And so she talks about how she asked the mermaid to get some of her blood so that she could save her childhood friend who was very ill and frail. And I had this whole backstory figured out. The moment that she looked at Natsume and thought he looked familiar, I had this whole backstory thought up. I was predicting what the episode was going to do, and I could not have been more wrong. I thought that she was going to be like childhood friends with Reiko, and that they both knew the mermaid, and that she got this blood to save like a childhood friend, and maybe the childhood friend ran off with Reiko, and I had this whole backstory all planned out, and I was not correct at all. I was like, oh, but so yeah, they all go walking around outside, walking back to the station, getting ready to leave. And Natsume goes back because he doesn't want his friends to get attacked by the mermaid. And of course, I like every time Natsume's like, you guys go off by yourselves. They're both like, is he trying to get us together? They don't complain. They go off by themselves just fine. And Natsume meets back up with them. But yeah, he gets attacked by the mermaid. And she's like, I have no name to give to a mere human. I'm like, but you gave your name to Reiko, so clearly there was something in the backstory there. And her backstory mainly has to do with Chizu, so I kept wanting to see what was the deal with Reiko. Why didn't we get Reiko's memories? And maybe that's in the manga, and we just didn't have time to talk about it here. I'm going to be very fascinated, because this episode did feel like there were little chunks that were maybe left out for time's sake, to keep it all in one episode and not make it a two-parter. Because it really doesn't need to be a two-parter. Here's the thing. I thought about that during the ED. I was like, it doesn't really need to be a two-parter. There's not a conflict that would warrant a cliffhanger and then another whole episode of content. It's a pretty straightforward little mission. But I could see in the manga, because the chapters in the manga feel quite long when you actually go and read them. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was a big extended like chapter or two, and there was no reason for the anime to make it 2 episodes, so they just decided to take out that Reiko chunk and toss it out. I would go look it up for next episode and let you know, but I've noticed in volumes 1 and 2, the timeline and order of events in the first 2 volumes are not the same as they are in the anime. There are things out of order, and I'm like, oh no. So I'm going to have to wait a couple episodes until we get to the season finale and then find that out for myself. So I'm excited, though. I'm excited to see what the manga shows me for this particular episode, because I feel like there's stuff left out, and we're going to see what it is. So I'll report back and let y'all know what I find out, right? I do love that Natsume is really sweet, and he ends up like giving the mermaid a little wet towel to like put on her head, right? And asks some questions. He's like the nicest detective. He's the sweetest detective ever, and it's so cute, right? I'm going to get a screenshot real quick of that. But again, we're going to talk real quick, because Natsume doesn't ever think of himself. He's always thinking of others, like he's thinking of Chizu when he's talking to the mermaid, and he's like, well, you know, just don't bother me anymore. You know, it's fine. Leave Chizu alone. It's okay. And Madara's like, you know, mermaids hate humans more than anything. And he talks about the reason why they hate humans. It's because they've been poached, and thus their flesh and blood have been stolen. Although, how much of that is true? Because how many immortal people are walking around, you know, right? And he's like, well, you shouldn't have let her go, Natsume. He's like, you could have ate her flesh, and you could have become immortal. And Natsume is like, oh, well, If I did that, you'd never get your book of friends, sensei. And in that moment, it like closes up on Madara's eye, and Madara's like, I feel like Madara knew exactly what he was saying when he was saying that. He was waiting to see if Natsume would respond that way. But also, I don't think Natsume wants to be immortal. I think that's the thing. Natsume's like, I don't want to be immortal. That sounds horrible. Watching your friends and family die and you stick around? No way. And he's going to relate that back to Madara when we get later on in the episode. So it almost feels like a sting to Madara when he's like, well, I wouldn't want to be immortal. And Madara's like, yeah, it sucks. So that's when he sees the old woman at the train station. And she keeps looking for Keiichi, which this whole segment here was horribly sad. Horribly sad. This woman basically, she doesn't have any parents. She didn't have any siblings. She just played around with this little fish, who we get the fish's side of the story. And then she became friends with Keiji. And then he ends up getting sick. She gets the blood to give him. And, you know, she never finds out if it works or not because it gets transferred to another hospital. And she's at this age where there's no one around her that's still alive that she can confirm her story with. So she doesn't even know if it's real or not. She's like, did I make all that up? Was it real? And then, to top it off on not only it being horrifically sad, she's like, you know, he never came back even after, you know, his life and my life was saved. And she's like, the shock of parting made me forget about the mermaid's blood until later. And then she talks about her husband passing. And then she says this line. She's like, well, last year my husband passed. And she's like, and when I said to myself, I won't be long far behind him, then I remembered it all. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, that's so sad, because a lot of times, not always, but in a lot of instances when someone's spouse passed, they pass not far after them. And I think it's just because they're brokenhearted. Like, the grief of losing their loved one at that age, they just kind of lose the will to live after that. And a lot of times they don't end up living a long time after them. And that's horrifically sad. Now, that's not always the case. My great-grandmother, she lost her first husband, you know, before my mother was even born. And then her second husband, she lost when my mom was a kid, and she lived 50, 60 years afterwards, after, you know, those two husbands had passed, and they were like freak accidents. And she was fine. Like, she lived by herself for 60 years alone after they passed and was totally okay. And that was fine for her. But I know a lot of friends who, you know, their one grandparent dies and the other one dies like a year or two later. And it's not uncommon. And so when she said that, my heart broke for her. I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is all alone and she doesn't have anybody to share these stories with. And so she's just desperately trying to reconnect with her one childhood friend she thinks is immortal to see if she wasn't crazy. And come to find out, she wasn't crazy about getting the vial from the mermaid. The mermaid just lied to her and didn't tell her it was grape juice. And the thing about it is she's not even worried about herself in finding Keiji, the friend. She's worried about him being like, he can't die or age. So she's like, I want to reconnect with him because he's probably lonely like I am. And I was like, like, just so sad. It's so sad. And Natsume just has this big heart, whereas this woman is like tearing up. And Natsume's like, oh, this is really, really sad. And Madara's just creepily looking at her. You know, he's like, to live alone forever, watching everyone you love pass away. He's like, Sensei's probably lived like that. And even though Madara puts on this face of being unbothered, like it's not an issue, I think Natsume's kind of like, maybe it is a persona. Maybe it is just him putting on this face so he doesn't seem vulnerable, right? Because Natsume, like he says, you know, like with Reiko for one, and then eventually, like me, you know, someday I'm gonna pass too, and Madara may still be here, and what do we do with that? And so it's really horribly sad. It's like, yeah, the existential crisis is always present, right? And so Natsume wants to go find the mermaid again. And Madara's like, I'm not helping. We've already been through this. But he's quickly persuaded by food. So they go out to the bank to look for the mermaid. And then there she be. She shows up. And Natsume just jumping on her. Natsume, like, just grabbing her in the water is like, he took charge. Which is, you know, our boy Natsume. He's always taken charge before. But he did not hesitate to be like, you know, did you know a girl that gave you blood? And she's like, oh, are you just gonna be just like the others, right? I love that moment where she was like, all anybody cares about is immortality and flesh and blood. And Madara's just there on the sidelines watching so creepily, but just watching, because Madara's like, is that all they care about? Because Natsume's not like that. And it is really sad because the mermaid, as we come to find out from her perspective, she thought she could become friends with this girl. And when the girl finally comes back after she's made this decision to try to ask the girl to be friends, then all the girl wanted was the blood for her friend. And the mermaid was like, oh, is that all it was? Was you just got close to me so you could take advantage of me? Is that it? And then that led her to have this horrible, you know, view of humans. And I'm sure that her and Reiko fighting was just furthered that even more. And it's interesting because Madara kind of has the same view of, oh, well, humans, they just take advantage of yokai and all of this. But Natsume's been the exception to kind of prove them all wrong, right? And she's like, so when she came back after her long absence, I showed her this form. She's like, and it is kind of like, you know, really sad because the mermaid, she bared her soul and her true form to this girl, thinking that they could be friends. And all it did was get her to be taken advantage of. It's like she revealed her vulnerability, and it caused her to, like, you know, be kind of not punished for it, but she revealed this part of herself, and then it was like a rejection. I thought it was interesting that she's wanted this book of friends, but then whenever Natsume is, like, you know, kind of vulnerable in the water, I guess because Madara was there next to the book of friends, so she couldn't just go try to yoink it away. He would have stopped her. But then she decides she's gonna go eat the old lady, and Natsume is like, shit, what have I done? I've put her in jeopardy. And so as she sees the young man that she assumes is her childhood friend, not realizing it's his grandson, and she's older, she probably, from her point of view, did think it was him. That's when the mermaid was going to try to eat her. And she hesitates for a second when the old woman calls her out, but that gives enough time for Natsume to tackle her. And he's like, she was just a little girl who didn't understand your loneliness or your scars. She called you mermaid with kindness in her eyes. And then he's like, oh, the book's reacting to you, so your name is in there. She's like, is that why you want it? And again, the mermaid never quite says why she says she's wasting time, but I feel like there's so much more to the story we don't know. But yeah, I mean, Natsume does understand what it feels like to kind of be in a position of vulnerability and be worried that when you put yourself out there, the person you're doing that to is going to reject you. So Natsume's like, I kind of know how you feel, mermaid, and I assure you, Chizu did not mean to reject you like that, right? Also, a point of note that Natsume constantly ends up on the ground with these yokai, like, over the top of him as he's about to get eaten by them. Like, poor Natsume. Natsume is, like, one of the least sexual main characters I've had on the channel, and all these other yokai are just trying to get all up on him, and he's like, please leave me alone. And then, of course, Madara shows up. Madara shows up in all of his splendor, being like, hey, no, Natsume's mine. And then Natsume gives her name, Sasafune, back to her. It happened really quick. It was just like, boom, name back. And then, I guess because she's got her name back, she's just okay with moving on, passing to the next life. Although, Natsume does make a note of saying that she'll probably return at some point to talk to Chizu, which I hope she does. I hope they get to have some closure, right? But we get to have her memories of Chizu showing up. She's like, you saw into my soul, didn't you? I was angry and sad, and I decided to play a trick on her. And I gave her a vial filled with grape juice. And then with tears in her eyes, she thanked me. And then Sasafune felt bad for playing the trick on her, and she was angry. She thought that the girl would be, you know, ungrateful to her and just take advantage of her, but in fact, that's not what happened, and she kind of felt shame for what she did. And so then Natsume is like, well, go tell Chizu yourself. Don't leave this on me. And that's when this grandmother, who has the stamina of a marathon runner, who has an Olympian athlete stamina, shows up after running and is able to see the mermaid again before she passes on. It's really sweet. And so they're like, did you hear that, Shizu-san? And she's like, yes. The same gentle voice that I used to hear. Yeah, the grandson looks a lot like his grandfather. And they find out it was him. But the thing about it is, I was doing good. I was doing good with this episode. I was like, well, this is kind of melancholy and it's kind of sad, but it has a nice happy ending. But then I was like, damn, that old woman's all alone now. And then when Natsume says he found out that Keiichi died 3 years ago, I'm like, well, shit, now she's alone entirely. She's not going to get to be with anybody. And then they have the grandson on the bridge. And Natsume's like, the grandson would like to hear stories about his grandfather. So, can you stick around and live long enough to tell him all these stories? I was like, oh my God. That's when I got misty-eyed, because it's just like, it's like the concept of this older woman that just wants somebody to share time with and to be able to talk to, and this grandson of her childhood friend is gonna like hear all her stories, and it just makes me so emotional. It's just so beautiful. And that's the thing, like when you get older, a lot of old people, they just want somebody to talk to. They just want to communicate with somebody, right? And just giving that time is and Natsume just smiling behind her, like knowing what he did. I'm like, it's so sweet. And then Sasafune, Chizune says that she'll come back. Now, Madara says, don't think that I can save you every time from getting hurt, It's like, don't think, some things are just impossible, which is a fact that you constantly seem to forget. And I like that Natsume is like, well, yes, I know. I am painfully aware of my own weakness, but that's why everyone knows how it feels to want to be with someone. Aw. Yep. Or to want someone to be with you. And what a precious thing it is when that wish comes true. We all just want to be found by somebody. And if you are found by somebody, it's the best thing in the world. My soul, reaching out to this episode. It was so beautiful. So sweet. So sweet, y'all. I just made me want to cry. It made me want to cry. So, but that's the Natsume effect, right? Anyway, I really enjoyed this episode a lot. It was a great one-shot episode. Rule of 8. Did it. Really, really sweet. I love it. I love how Natsume is growing as a person, and I love him Madara's adventures in this series. It's so wonderful. And I'm excited for next week. So I hope y'all are too. But I hope you enjoyed this episode reaction and discussion. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts down below, but hold off on them manga comments. Don't you worry. We're going to get to that manga when we finish season 2 and dive into the next season. So we'll be having time for that. Don't you worry. But in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back real soon with more Natsume Yujin-cho or Natsume's Book of Friends. Bye.